Alrighty, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining. One announcement, maybe two announcements, but one announcement for sure, is that there is a new initiative. I already posted this on our WhatsApp chat. And by the way, you should know this WhatsApp chat, there's really a lot that I want to share on it, but I've been holding myself back because I don't want people to get bombarded with information and they don't. I still might do that, but I don't know. As of now, I'm going to hold back. I have been sharing more recently, but we have shared this particular aspect where if somebody wants to adopt a hostage, that means is that you ask this person. Right now, it's being run by Rabbi Yaakov Rahimi. It was before it was run by somebody else, but now it's been run by him. The idea is that each person gets one hostage, and you pray for that hostage. So I have my hostage. My wife has her hostage that she. I know that sounds a little bit weird by the way I said that, but it's who you daven for and you pray for. So anybody that does want to join, please email adopthostage@gmail.com. So I'll spell it out: adopthostage@gmail.com to daven for a hostage. Okay. Beginning. Well, actually, really continuing on our, I guess, the current events that we've been dealing the past few weeks. And I do want to emphasize one of the reasons that I have been speaking about this topic consistently is because, people can say you shouldn't look at the news. But the bottom line is the people that are going to look at the news are going to look at the news. You can't stop it. What I am trying to do is to try to put a little bit of a twist to when you look at the news, when you hear, and that's what I really bring out a lot of the current events, and that is to try to show everybody and hopefully to teach everyone for themselves that when you look at the news, you look at it from a different angle, from the light of Torah as opposed to the light of whoever is reporting the news at the time, whether it's secular, non-Jew, or even a religious Jew. So with that being said, many Jewish people, if not most Jewish people in the world, at this point in time, and the 19th day of this war, post this massacre, I believe we can safely call ourselves journalists because everybody knows everything that's going on. Everybody's on like 75,000 different WhatsApp chats, looking at different news networks, trying to figure out what's going on the second, whether it's healthy or not. I think that's the question. The answer is obvious that it's not healthy. But for whoever is continuing to do that, we came to a point that our days are just filled with just news coverage and what's going on. And it most of the time, in fact, what news generally brings you is depression. It doesn't bring you anything. Well, I shouldn't say depression because no one should be depressed, but it's like sad information. There's no, like positive information that usually goes on the news. So with that mindset, when something that we touched upon last week is where the world is holding and what the viewpoints are and how they are more focused more towards the murderers' side as opposed to the Israeli side. They're more focused towards evil as opposed to being more focused towards good. So we kind of seeing the world having a divide, and people are choosing sides. And the essence, the more that we continue with this, the more that we see that it reveals people's true identities. It shows people's true colors of what they really felt all along. And the way it generally works is that when someone's pushed into a corner, a person's true colors tend to come out. We have our inner core, our feelings, our understandings, our main beliefs that is core inside each and every single one of us. Jew, non-Jew, doesn't matter. Everybody has their core beliefs. We get sidelined with the world, and we get, I don't want to say if the word is confused, but we kind of lose focus of what our core beliefs are. And every once in a while, there's kind of a wake-up call where our core beliefs just like shoot out of us and be like, okay, this is really what's going on, and this is my true belief. And that's really where we're standing on in this day and age, in our time, where there was so much that was going on that just like pushed people into a corner, and now their beliefs came out, their core essence came out of who they are. And just to give you an example, to understand this a little bit more clearly, when you have a person, when they're on their deathbed, they have usually regrets. They have usually things that they want to change. The things that really were important, all of a sudden become very, very clear. Like if somebody was a workaholic, all they think about is like, not that, they could have put more hours in the office. They don't think about, I could have made more money. What they think about, maybe I could have spent more time with my family. Maybe I could have done more chesed. And the other things I think about is what my spiritual requirements are in my life, that I was placed on this earth. Did I fulfill that? Meaning all of a sudden we have things that come out that is the true essence, our true focus, and really what's our inner real, being of what we really want comes out during those difficult times. And now during this difficult time, all of a sudden that inner belief comes out, and that's why you see people all of a sudden that weren't so religious, and they're coming out, they're becoming more religious. You have people that never put on tefillin, all of a sudden they're putting on tefillin now, because the inner core of what they really believe, they came out. They were unfortunately covered with a bunch of klipot. They are covered with distractions. Now the Gemara in Eruvin tells us that b'shleishet dvarim adam nikar, that a person is defined, understood, ascertained by three things: Kiso, Becareful, in his cup, in his pocket, and in his anger. Now, what I want to try, B'ezrat Hashem, what I would like to try today is to give 5 different lessons. 5 different things that we could take away and what we can do better ourselves. So let's be, and this is the first 3. So let's try to understand this. What does it mean when the Gemara says that a person is defined by 3 things? That you could ascertain a person's personality, a person's inner core by 3 things: by his anger, by his cup, and by his pocket. So by his cup, that's referring to liquor. When a person gets drunk, nichnas yain yatsa sayid, when a person drinks, the wine goes in and the secrets come out. All of a sudden, you can really tell a person's essence when he or she, when they drink and they get intoxicated. And that's why you see the big tzaddikim, the big gedolim, that if they go and they drink, what do they all they speak about is Dvar Torah. They're only learning about Torah. Yet when you see the opposite, when you see low lives, when you see people that don't do anything with their lives and they drink, what happened? They speak about nonsense. They speak about sometimes nonsense is a positive thing. They speak about worse than nonsense, because that's their essence. That's who they are inside. That's Becareful in his cup. Becareful in his anger. When a person gets angry, they can't think rationally anymore. It's just whatever is inside of them. If a person is used to using foul language, if they get angry, it just slips out. They can't control it because that's who they are inside. It just pops out. Yet if a person is a good person inside and they get angry, that anger is very different from a vulgar person's anger. That anger is very different from a abuser style anger. So it defines who you are. Basically, it removes any protection or blockage that a person may put on themselves to prevent them from really being who they are. But these 2 things are things that they kind of remove at. And the final thing is a bit Kiso in his pocket, and that is when it comes to money. Now, people could talk big, people could say that they want to do a lot, but at the end of the day, what happens when it comes into your money? What is it? Are you going to go and you're going to give money? Are you going to go and you're going to help others? Or is it all just a talk? So now let's go and break it down and how it relates to what we're dealing with today, and what are the lessons that we can take away from it. So number 1, the cup. The Kiso, and that is the intoxication. The essence of this is really self-control. Whenever somebody is able to hold it or can't control their liquor, it's where they have this lack of balance between their physical and their spiritual sides. They don't have that self-control. Besides the fact that a person doesn't know when he could stop, or when she can't stop and she drinks too much, that's a whole nother story. But the essence really is where do you have that you lose that self-control, and how it relates to where we're dealing with now. This is something that I spoke about. I don't think we ever recorded this, but I gave classes a long time ago about meditation. And one of the ideas of meditation is that you're able to take a mindset. You're able to take an emotion and so kind of transfer it to a different place. Meaning that you could go and bring yourself, let's say, to a sad state because of scenario A in your mind, and then you could take that emotion and transfer it to scenario B. So meaning that if you have, for example, you're in scenario A and it's a very emotional and you start getting sad and you're starting to cry, you're able to take that emotion and now transfer it into tefillah, into prayer. That's like a positive way of controlling your emotions. So what does it have to do with nowadays? We're so filled with information. We're so filled, and it's only human, it's only normal that you come and you're reading the news or you hear something, and it's just every once in a while it just hits you like a ton of bricks, and you start breaking down, and you're like, it's hard. You know everything that's going on in the world, and you break down. Now the question is, do you stop for a second and say, okay, you know what? Let me just cry and just let it out, or do you stop and say, you know what? Let me transfer this emotion and let me use it for Tehillim. Let me transfer this emotion and use it for tefillah. The control that we're referring to over here is that it's bound that you're going to be utilizing your emotions. Everybody has in touch with their emotions. Unfortunately, some people watch movies and they waste their emotions on that. But if you're using your emotions and you're coming to tears, do not waste those tears. Use those tears. Control those tears and use it for tefillah. I'm not saying don't cry, but at least daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and help for whatever it is that it's going for in the world, or even help for yourself, daven for yourself. But utilize those tears. Control those tears. And the next time, and this is lesson number 1, next time that you come to tears, next time that you have some sort of strong emotion, even if it's not tears, stop whatever you're doing and transfer that, control that to utilizing for the good and utilizing it for prayer, utilizing it for tefillah. That's lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, this is regarding the anger aspect. Why does a person get angry? Where does anger come from? Anger comes from, like, I can't believe that this happened to me. Why did this, let's say somebody A did something to you. When you get angry, you're saying, I can't believe that A did this to me. After all that I did to him, how dare he do it to me? A, B, and C, whatever the reasoning is, you're upset because you feel like someone wronged you. And many times, rightfully so, that you get upset and you get angry. But where does the essence of anger come from? It comes from the fact that you think in your mind that person A did it. But really we know that person A didn't do it. He was a messenger from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Really Hashem did it. God did it, and he was the messenger. So when we get angry, and that's why the Gemara tells us that when someone gets angry, it's as if they worshipped avodah zarah, if they worship idolatry. Why if you get angry, it's as if you worship idolatry? Because what you're really saying is God doesn't exist. God doesn't have the power. Because if you really believed in God to the full extent of what God really is and the true power of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you would have realized that if someone wronged you, you would have realized it's not that person, it's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And by not realizing that, meaning that you're worshiping somebody else. Who are you worshiping? You're worshiping yourself. The idol that you're worshiping when you're getting angry is none other than yourself. So when we realize that God controls everything, then that anger dissipates. We realize that anger is not the right emotion. And just like God controls everything, as difficult as this is to understand, God controlled the massacre. God controlled the torture that the Jewish people went through. God controls all the people that are siding with the terrorists. That makes no sense. We have to do our Ishtadlus, yes. Whatever that means to each person on their own, we have to do our effort to do what we need to do. But anger, that's a no. Hishtadlus, yes. Anger, no. And that's lesson number 2. To focus on where we place our anger, where we place our blame, to realize where the true source of everything is. And not that, chas v'shalom, we're allowed to get angry at HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when we get angry, we're showing that there is no HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you read the news and you start like, how can this imbecile even say such a thing? Like, how can people even believe such a thing? They have to be idiotic. They have to be crazy. They're not all the brain. And you start getting angry. But we have to stop ourselves for a moment and say, you know what? This is not a reason to get angry. And I don't know if you're following with us so far, but the lessons that we're going to be trying to present tonight, B'ezrat Hashem, is ways that you're going to be able to deal with the news and the situation. The ways that you're going to be able to reduce your anxiety, because we all know that many people, nonstop, I hear about how people are anxious about what's going on. People in America, people in England, people in South Africa, people in Israel, from all over not just where the war is happening. So these are strong lessons that we have to take really, really seriously, and I really feel that it could change your mindset and it could change your ideology, and not only that, it could change the way that you relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in such a fantastic way. So again, lesson number 1 was self-control, utilizing those emotions for the benefit. It's so powerful when if you just cry, people feel good after they cry or whatever, to each their own, like for girls, I just need to cry. I just need to let it out. Fine, do your thing, whatever it is. But if you take that cry and you use it for the benefit and you use it for the good, that I just need to cry, I just need to let it out, it's 1,000 times greater. Forget about the power. I'm talking about for your own emotions, how you feel. So again, lesson number 1 is control. What's the control? Control that when you have the emotions, utilize it for the benefit. Lesson number 2 is the anger aspect. When you get angry, when you get upset, when you're looking at the news, realizing what's the source of this. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're messengers of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yes, they deserve their punishment, and don't worry, they're going to get it. But at the same point in time, we have to realize that when we stop and we get angry, we're showing that there's no HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're showing that a God doesn't exist, and we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu exists. Number 3. That's Kiso, that's in the pocket. That's how do you deal with others. When every single one of us heard about this massacre, it takes time to internalize, it takes time to process, but after all that processing, so then what? Like what happened afterwards? What did you do? How did you step up? How did you deal with others? And I want to speak about this the way the Jewish nation did, and I want to speak about the way the non-Jews, dealt with this. So we know the Jewish nation, it's really unbelievable. We spoke about this many times, and I feel like it deserves to be spoken about every single time, as the amount of Achdus that just came out of this is unparalleled, unbelievable, and it just keeps on growing. It's really amazing. The unity that and just to understand how bad it was, so bad beforehand, and it went 180 degrees, and how it became so amazing now. It's really unbelievable. It's really unbelievable the level of Achdus and unity we reached. You had these restaurants that were anti-God, anti-religion. They went and they kashered their kitchen so they could give food to the Israeli soldiers. There are many Israeli soldiers that they say to this day they haven't eaten food from the army. All they eat is just from all these restaurants, these amazing, delicious meals. Now, is that going to save anything? Is that going to change the world? You're feeding the soldiers. The soldiers are going to have food without this thing. So what is this? Why is this so beautiful? Why is it so important? Because it shows the soldiers, it says, we're here with you. Every single one, from the religious people to the secular people and to everyone in between. People that are pro-God, the people that are anti-God. They're telling the soldiers, we are brothers and we are sisters and we are here with you. We care about you. And that's what you see everywhere around the world. I haven't been to a shul that hasn't said Kapitel Tehillim for what's going on in Eretz Yisrael. And nobody needs to say why we're saying Tehillim. Everybody knows exactly why. After the tefillah, you say Kapitel Tehillim. No one asks, everybody does it. You see the beautiful videos on how you have secular and religious people sitting together and singing songs about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Songs about Am Yisrael, about the nation that we are. And I'll tell you why this is so important. In Parshas Shemots, Moshe Rabbeinu struck down the Egyptian who was beating Jewish slaves. He was beating a Jewish slave, and Moshe Rabbeinu took care of him and basically, got rid of him. And the next day he saw two Jews, Dasan and Aviram, and one was raising their hand to hit the other. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, wait a minute, why are you going to go and hit your friend? He said, why are you going to hit your friend? So you know what one of them responded? It says, who appointed you the leader? Who made you the boss of us? Who decided that you're the one who's going to decide what I do? And you know what Moshe Rabbeinu responded to that? Now I know. Now he knows what? Rashi says, now I know why the Jewish people are in exile. He says, look at the lashon hara that's going around. Look at the evil speech. Look how they're not careful with their speech. He says, now I know why there is a exile and why the Jewish people are in exile. In fact, the Midrash Tanchuma goes on further and says that when he takes it, the Midrash brings in a little bit of a different angle, that you have lashon hara. Now that you have lashon hara, so how are you going to be redeemed? Meaning Moshe Rabbeinu saw it, according to Rashi, that is the reason why they're in exile. The Midrash says, because they speak, now how are they going to get out of the exile? And Moshe Rabbeinu felt that this was enough. The lashon hara is enough to hold off the redemption from Yetzias Mitzrayim. And we see this in the Gemara in the Talmud Yerushalmi, that tells us that in David HaMelech's generation, everyone was tzaddikim, everyone was righteous. But because there were informers, they had machlokas, they didn't get along, when they went out to war, they fell in battle. But Achav's generation, which was full of idolaters, Achav was not a good king. And they were full of people, the Jewish people that were serving idolatry. But yet when they went to war, they came with victory. They didn't lose soldiers. You want to know why? Because they had unity, they had peacefulness. Even though they had idolatry, even though they had worse than secular people. They had people that were going against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They had people that were going and worshiping other gods. Still, they were able to succeed in the victory because they had unity. Unity is what caused the redemption out of Yetzias Mitzrayim, out of Egypt, and unity is what's going to bring the future redemption with Mashiach. And listen to something that I just heard today I heard it from Rabbi Breidowitz, and he quoted it from the Sfas Emes. We know in Pesach we say V'hisha amda l'avosenu v'lanu. This is a famous song that now became famous after Shweki started singing it. I believe Shweki was the first one, maybe there was someone before that. V'hisha amda l'avosenu v'lanu. Shaloi echad bilvad amad aleinu l'chalasenu. Ela shebachol dar v'dar imdim aleinu l'chalasenu v'hakadosh baruch hu matzilenu miyadam. The translation is that this, which is referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Torah, is what kept our fathers from and us from surviving. Not only did they try to destroy us, but every single generation they tried to destroy us. But God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, stands up and saves us from them. But listen to the way this Sfas Emes explains it. It's so beautiful, amazing. He says this Sfas Emes. You want to know why they rose up to destroy us? They want to destroy us. Shaloi echad belvad, because we were not echad. Shaloi echad, we were not one. We are not united. Then amad aleinu l'chalesenu. That's why the nations of the world wanted to get up and go and destroy us. And we see this story in Purim as well. The story in Purim, Haman goes over to Achashverosh. Yeshnei am echad mufuraz. There is a nation that's spread out. Mikol amim, all around the nations. They're spread out. And Haman was telling Achashverosh, now we can destroy them because they don't have the unity. And that's why Mordechai had to go and says, Lech k'neises kol ha'Yehudim. Esther told, go and bring everybody together. You want to defeat the enemy? We need unity. We need to have the Achdus. And I'm saying the reason why I'm bringing this up again and again is because when you have that pain, when you have that common enemy, everybody unites. But we have to make sure that it gets stronger and it doesn't get weaker and slowly dissipates over time. So you want to know how Jewish people responded to this massacre? They responded with unity. The woman went, even religious, not religious, and they started ripping up the immodest clothing. They started dressing modestly. There was a girl who went to college, never came from more of a secular background, decided that now she's going to start putting on a skirt. When all anti-Semitism is on a rise, now she's going to put up a skirt. People started keeping Shabbos. People started davening. People are learning extra. People are sending money. You're sending money to Hatzalah. You're sending money to all areas. And I got to put it in over here because if you haven't sent any money, it's very difficult. You don't know where to send money to. So I have to say, if you don't know where to send money to, I'll tell you right now what you should be doing is you should go to dailygiving.org. Daily Giving is an amazing organization. It's an organization where you give $1 a day and they give to different organizations every single day. Now they've been giving to different organizations in Israel. You don't know where you're going to go start giving to all this. They do all the work for you. You give them $1 and they have collectively, I don't know where they're up to $15,000, maybe more, and they have other funds that they've been giving millions of dollars, and they will continue to give millions and millions of dollars to tzedakah. You could be a part of that. You don't know. It's so simple. You sign up and let them do the rest for you. $1 a day, and they take care of everything. Got to also say that there is a new sefer that came out called Daily Aliyah. Daily Aliyah was written by my cousin Shlomo Ressler. I have to. I really have it over here. I really should have shown it. I wasn't planning, whatever. But he was also very involved in starting Daily Giving. And right now, this, first of all, besides the fact that if you buy this sefer, all the money goes directly to daily giving. It doesn't get anything. All the money goes directly to daily giving. But it's a beautiful idea. It's daily aliyah. Every single day you learn a little bit. It's like a paragraph about the aliyah of the day, meaning that every single day you learn something. Takes you maybe 45 seconds to read that, and it's beautiful. It's a lesson. It's what you learn from it. Strongly recommend to go and to check it out. Daily aliyah. Anybody wants, you could email me and I'll send you a link for it. There's also, if anybody wants, there's a WhatsApp group where you could where he posts this stuff. Also, if anybody wants, you could reach out to me for that. But in any case, this is what the Jewish people did. They went and they started giving, and they went and they started doing extra for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They started davening more. They started putting on tefillin. They started keeping Shabbos. They started doing all these things. Just to tell you the essence of what a Jew is. I read this story this week where there was a Jewish guy in the settlements over there in the kibbutzim. His name was Benny Chasson. He has a kibbutz near the Gaza border, and the way that the terrorists, the things that they did, when they barged in, they started shouting IDF, IDF. So people will come out thinking that is the Israeli Defense Force, and they'll come out and be like, no, we're right over here. And when the people came out, they shot them and they killed them. Meaning they were using it as a tactic to get everybody out so that they could kill them. So they started screaming at it. And he saw this, this was happen. He saw them throwing a grenade into his house. Thank God it didn't explode. He sat in a safe room in his house for 22 hours. And he could hear, he spoke Arabic, he could hear the terrorists plotting and saying kill the Jews and whatever, they're screaming to each other. When the real IDF came into his house at 4 a.m., the soldiers again, they yelled IDF, IDF, because that's what they do. They yell that, and then people know that it's really it's the Israeli army and it's safe to come out. And this Benny Chasson, he wasn't sure. Like, is this really the IDF, or is this again the terrorists that were just screaming IDF, IDF? So he didn't want to come out, so he started screaming back at them. He's like, complete this sentence, Shema Yisrael. And then the soldiers responded, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Then he opened the door. He said, you want to know, I don't know if these soldiers, if this person was religious, was not religious. But you know what everybody knows? Everybody knows, you know what a Jew is? At a time of like, when you push into a corner, he didn't ask, what's the politics going on in Israel? Which side are you on? Are you side of the right or you side of the left? He didn't ask all, you know what he asked? Do you know what identified? He said the famous line, the line that a baby is said right when they're born, the line when a person says right before they pass away, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Know that this is our God, and there's only one. This is what he said to the soldiers, and that's how he identified what is a Jew and what is not a Jew. Now we know that the Jewish side, obviously if you're Jewish, you're siding with Israel. It's kind of obvious. Well, I shouldn't say it's kind of obvious, because there are twisted people out there that still somehow side with Hamas. Again, if you check their lineage, there's got to be something off over there. There's someone sent me a video today. A publisher, from a newspaper, not a good newspaper, let's just call it, in Israel. She sat there and she was crying. You know what she was crying? She couldn't believe at what was going on in Gaza. Not one like tear for her brothers and Jew. Again, I don't know if you know what's really going on in her lineage, but not one tear for the massacre, the brutal murder of over 1,400 Jewish people. That she didn't cry about. She cried about for the terrorists. That's who she cried about. So of course you have those twisted people, and you can't, people that are twisted, you can't, whatever. There's something wrong with them. You can't really, you can't really deal with that. But overall, we know the Jewish people, they side with Israel. That's obvious. But what happens when you look at the world at large? When you look at the world at large, which way do they side on? Now, what we spoke about last week is that it doesn't matter who they side on, because we have to trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that still stands true. But I want to go and want to bring this out a little bit and on a different angle, where they side on and why it makes a difference. Not per se for us, but really more for them. On the first Tuesday after the attack, so the attack happened on Shabbos. That Monday was some holiday, I believe it was Columbus Day, and that Tuesday was the first day that people went back to colleges. And when the first day they came back to colleges, there were rallies, there were riots, and people would think, okay, rallies and riots, right? Supporting Israel, supporting the massacre, saying that we should end all this death. But no. It was rally and it was riots for supporting Hamas. And many Jewish kids, they literally, when they were interviewed, they were like, we're afraid to go to class. Like after what we saw over here. And these are the same liberal students who scream words are violence, and silence is violence. These are the same people who look for equal rights for everyone, and they look for the hashtag Me Too movement. Apparently not if it's women that are murdered in and who knows what in Israel. Only for I guess certain people, because there was no hashtag Me Too movement in for what happened for the woman in Eretz Israel. They were so careful with microaggression. Forget about just a microaggression that was so. They were calling out anybody who's against transgender, LGBTQ. This is what they were worried about. They were like so good people. They were helping the world. They were very supportive of the terrorists. Words are violence. What about bullets? Bullets are not. They came out supporting the terrorists. And by the way, this already started even before Israel did a massive retaliation, which is only going to get worse for them. This is before it came out, meaning that it was just a one-sided attack for the most part at this point. And people came out, these people that scream about same rights, about going and microaggression, about love for everyone, they scream and they protested for the terrorists. The hypocrisy. It's like when I was looking at this, I was like, oh, okay, we're dealing with people that are just not 100%. Like, is there another way to understand this? Just not 100%. The hypocrisy is unbelievable. You look at the protests in England. The protests in England, if you saw what was going on, better Nazi. But better Nazi sounds like the same thing. They were actually Nazis. So in England, they were screaming. They weren't screaming pro, Palestine or things like that. They were screaming directly, very, very choice words against Jews. That the rally was about Jews, and you see them on loudspeaker screaming this profanity against Jews. Mind you, it's the same country in England where somebody got arrested for posting something negative about transgender. So here you have people in a microphone, in a car, driving down the street with other people, chanting it, screaming against the Jewish people, very, very, very racial slurs, very, very bad things, no problem. But the second you post something on social media against transgender, oh my gosh, we got to do, we got to arrest, and they arrested them. Can you believe the hypocrisy? Like, it's unbelievable. It's really, it's almost, when it gets too crazy, it's like, okay, this is a joke, right? Like, you can't be serious at this point in time. These are the same left liberal kids who support everyone. They also support murdering babies, apparently. And this is not just about abortion. This is after they were born. The majority, and this is a scary fact. This is a scary poll, that the majority of from the ages 18 to 24 say that the Hamas massacre was justified. Like, I don't know if they know what went on over there. I cannot and I will not say what went on. I'm sure people know what went on, but I guarantee you don't know all the details. And I've had people that send me like they have access to things, and I've seen things that I wish nobody else should ever have to see or even need to see, of what they actually did to these women and children. It's not, forget about it, animals don't behave like that. Like, calling them an animal is like a step up. It's beyond that. And yet it's justified. I don't know even if we would just stop at beheading babies, if we just stopped at burning babies alive, if we would just stop there, I don't think anything would ever justify that. Anything. But they did a lot worse than that. Like it's unbelievable how far they went. And yet you have people that are supporting this, and they're rallying for this, and they're proud about it, and they go on and they make rallies in their colleges. Just to go through a few colleges. These are the Ivy League colleges. Harvard University, this is a day after the attack. There was a coalition of 34 student groups. Granted, some of them redacted, they changed it afterwards. But at the end of the day, 34 student groups signed a letter that Israel was entirely responsible for the terrorism, which left 1,400 of their own citizens, dead. Israel was responsible for the beheading and the burning of little children, of the torture and the mutilation of body. Israel was the one who was responsible for that. And this is Harvard University. This is one of the most, high. This is, when you look at, you want to look at a resume and be like, oh, wow, which school do you went to? Harvard is right up, well, now it was shot down. But beforehand, it was like, oh, you went to Harvard. It must be like something very, very chashuv. NYU, you know what happened in NYU? You had students over there people went over there and they started posting all the kidnapped, children and women and men. These are the people, the 222 people that were, or whatever number we're holding on at this point, that were kidnapped by Hamas. And you had students over there that went and they ripped down these posters. Are you kidding me? There's posters of kidnapped children. Why are you ripping it down? How could somebody be so that's such a aggressive move that what's the mindset behind that? You don't gain anything from that. Where is the reasoning behind that? And if that wasn't enough, there was a rally in NYU, and there was a rally today, and they had signs. This was pure Nazi style signs in New York, rallying right at the Jewish kids. They're scared to go to these classes, and right next door to them, there's somebody right next door. Forget about it, next door. They're sitting right next to them. It could be there's a person that just wants them dead. And this is in America. This is the land of the free, right? Free speech. You got to thank that for that, where you have somebody right next to very clearly say, yeah, I want all Jews dead. And no, nobody, free speech. We got to, I don't know where they put the line. George Washington University. They projected a message that says, glory to our martyrs. That is glorifying the terrorists that murdered the men, women, and children and mutilated them, these men, women, and children. And then they had signed Free Palestine from the river to the sea, which we all know that it means to get rid of all the Jews. This is what's going on in the colleges around America. And there are, I would say, can you blame them? And the answer is yes. But where do they get a lot of this information? They get it from their professors. Cornell, there was a professor that called the Hamas attack exhilarating and energizing. Direct quote. Exhilarating and energizing. Columbia professor called it, the terror attacks, awesome. This is a Columbia professor. Yale University, there was another professor. Let me give you this delicious quote of nonsense. Israel is a murderous, genocidal settler state, and Palestine have every right to resist through armed struggle and solidarity. Well, armed struggles, solidarity. So, it's for these people, this is right after the massacre. This is what they came out with. It was, no one hid what happened. Everybody knows exactly what happened during this massacre. Not to all the details, but they know in general this is what happened. And you know how everybody knows? Because Hamas showed it. They had their GoPros and they showed it to everybody. And it's as if they're telling them, this is what we did. And the liberal left, not a 100%ers, I don't know what you call them. These are the people that are like, no, you didn't do that. And they're like, no, we did. We have video proof for it. No, I don't know. They're like, Lashon hara, namekaba, la 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 la. What are you kidding me? They're showing you what they did. They're telling you what they did. Do you really have proof for that? I don't know. I haven't seen any proof for that. Yeah, okay, fine. I'll get the people with the white coats. They need to get you because obviously you're missing some stuff over there. It makes absolutely no sense. What's going on? How do you begin to understand it? And it wasn't just this. The Chicago professor, the School of Art, said they called Israelis are pigs, very bad people, irredeemable excrement. These are exact quotes of what these college professors are calling the Jewish state after the Jewish state. The Jewish people had the worst attack that they ever had since the Holocaust. We don't have to go through all the colleges, but just to name some other colleges is Stanford University, University of California, University of Pennsylvania, and Brown University. And now what's happening is all of a sudden the progressive Jews, the Jews that spent years supporting racial equality, the Jews that unfortunately so left that they were supporting all these transgender rights and the abortion rights, and they were opposing even Israeli policies in Gaza. They were opposing it, but all of a sudden they saw, wait a minute, now you guys are going to have to side with the other side, like the Jews, after all this, and they saw These lefty Jews saw, like, wait a minute, even now you're going against it? All of a sudden, they're like, like, it was like a shock to them. Like, I thought you were my friends. I thought these are the we marched together and so many times. This is an article that was brought down, and now a no longer reputable website anymore, but it used to be at some point. I don't know when. New York Times, the most liberal, left, wrong, anti-Semitic, newspaper, came out with this information that they had people reach out to them and be like, we don't know we don't know what's going on. Our friends, these are the left liberal Jews. They're like our friends that we thought we stood by you through everything. We thought now you're going to side with us, and now all of a sudden there's a divide. And now these lefty liberal Jews are all of a sudden waking up and be like, wait a minute, so we don't have the same beliefs. We don't follow the same mindsets. We don't have the same thoughts about everything. And the scary part is where we're sending our children. This is where some of us are studying. This is where we're studying in these colleges with this information, with these professors. We have to be very, very careful where you send your kids. And if you want to say, maybe they don't know all these rallies, most of them don't really know. They know. And I'll tell you how I know they know is because they wear masks. Why do you wear masks? If you think what you're doing is right, most of them, if you ever look at these rallies, they're wearing masks, right? They're not worried about getting the flu or getting COVID or whatnot. They're worried about being, they don't want their faces to be associated with it because they know what they're doing is wrong. And even though they know what they're doing is wrong, they're still siding with it. There was one NYU student who blamed Israel like days after the attack, that Israel bears full responsibility. She was going to get a job. They quickly removed her from the job that she was going to get. But she was interviewed today by ABC and another news organization, and they kept on asking her, would you change anything about your statement? Because she spoke very, very derogatory about Israel right after Israel got massacred, men, women, and children. And she said, I'm paraphrasing, but she said no. And then they asked her, do you condemn Hamas for what they did? And she responded, it's very obvious and clear on whom I condemn in my message that I posted. And this news, they were literally trying to give her an opening to be a little bit moral and make a little bit of sense. And they asked him several, they even asked him, do you have at least empathy for the Israelis? She wouldn't even have any empathy for the babies that were murdered. This is a woman, I don't know if she's Muslim, she did not look Muslim. This is a woman from America in NYU law school who went so strong against Israel right after the massacre, and even after the fact that she lost everything and she's going to continue to lose everything, she even could not bring herself to say that, what they did was wrong. There is all these rallies, no one's calling for Hamas to be removed. No one's calling for a healthy Palestinian state. That's not where they're calling for a removal of Jews. Listen to this. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said that there is about 600 Americans in Gaza. And they told these Americans, go to the border by Egypt and go out through there. And you know what happens when the Americans came over there? Hamas didn't let them leave. Hamas is not letting anybody leave. They're not only terrorizing Israel, they're terrorizing the Gaza state. They're not letting them out. Why is no left media screaming about this? Let the people, an open air prison is what they're calling Gaza. So then let people leave. Americans are there. Why don't you let them leave? And if they're not letting them leave, so why do you not how many of every single one of you that is listening to right now, who's following the news, how many of you heard about that? Which newspapers did you read that in? Why is it only shown the negative aspect of what happened to, in Israel? Where's the negative aspect of what they're doing to their own? And you think, okay, so Islam is siding with Islam, Jews are siding with Jews. But first of all, Islam is not siding with Islam because according to Islamic law, you're not allowed to kill children and women during war. Even the terrorists that were captured, that went on this murder rampage, the massacre, they were captured and they were interviewed by the Israeli forces, and they were asked, "Is this allowed to in Islam?" And they said straight out no. And they say what they tell us in the Quran and in the mosque is one thing, and then what they tell us at war is something else. And they said straight out, this is not allowed according to Islamic law. So how come you don't have any Islamic people, any Islamic, countries that are calling out, this is not what Islam stands for. Islam stands for peace. They should say Islam stands. Why are no one calling that? People should chant Free Palestine. They should chant that. And they should end it from Hamas. Free Palestine from Hamas. Because Hamas is not good. Not for the Jews and not for the Palestinian. Yet people don't talk about that. And in fact, there's a poll by the Palestinian News Network. This is not in Gaza, this is in East Jerusalem, that 93% of Arab residents that live in East Jerusalem prefer to live under Israeli government than the Palestinian Authority. So all these people that are chanting Free Palestine, just look a little bit why and who wants that. Even the Palestinians, they have more rights and freedom in Israel than they have anywhere else in the Middle East. Whether it's right or it's wrong is a different, topic for a different class. But the bottom line is, look how far off people are. And all these, people that care about ceasefire, I haven't seen one place where they're screaming for a ceasefire that it says release the hostages. Where these rallies say, free Palestine and free the hostages. No one says that. It's always like kind of like a one-sided focus. This shows us how careful we have to be. These are the people that we live with. This is people in America. These are the colleges that are around the corner. These are Ivy League colleges that people pay tens of thousands of dollars per year to go to. And this is where people send their kids to go to. Now, why is this so imperative? We see this even in this week's parsha. In this week's parsha, the story of Sarah and Hagar. Sarah was not able to have children, we know, so she suggested to Avram, her husband, that he should marry Hagar. And Hagar became pregnant quickly. And Hagar begins mistreating Sarah. So, not treating her nicely now that she became pregnant. So Sarah goes over to Avram and he says, you got to do something about this. So Avram says, listen, you're my wife. Do whatever you please with her. So Sarah retaliates, let's call it, and starts treating Hagar, harshly. So Hagar goes and runs away. Kind of like Maisa of Banim, right? The Palestinians, they go and they destroy and they kill the Jewish people, and the Jewish people come retaliate, and the Palestinians are like, no, but why are you doing it? I can't, you have to stop. Like the ridiculous mindset. But in any case, so Hagar runs away. An angel of Hashem finds Hagar and says, where are you coming from and where are you going? So she says, I'm coming from, I'm running away from Sarah. So the Malach says that you should go and return to Avram and Sarah. No matter how miserable it is, you should return over there. So asks her, my friend, what's with this dialogue? Like, how do we understand this dialogue? So the Seforno explains that the angel is telling Hagar, who are you running away from? You're running away from Avram Avinu. You know the schus, the merit of being in the house of Avram. It's better off that you stay over there because of the merit that comes because of Avram. But she responds, but I can't take it anymore. So the Malach says, still go back anyway. No matter how bad it is, the merit there is worth it. That's how the Seforno explains it. But listen to the way the Alter from Kelm, Rav Simcha Zisel, goes and explains it. He says that the Malach, the Hagar was responding to the Malach, and he says, you don't have to worry. I'm able to go anywhere. I'm coming from the house of Avram. I lived over there, and I know the dangers of the world. I know that I am now immune to negative influences because I'm coming from Avram. And forget about wherever I run from, I could run to because I have that history. I have that training from Avram Avinu. So the angel responds to Hagar, you're wrong. You're very, very wrong. No matter how many years you spent in the house of Avram, such an environment will negatively affect you. A person's environment always has an effect on them. Today you could have a certain belief system that's straight and the right way, but no one can say that I'm immune. By tomorrow you could be completely distorted. And the best proof of this is light. We know that Lot followed Avram Avinu from Haran to Canaan, then to Egypt, and then back to Canaan. Avram and Lot, he was very close, Yet when Lot ran off to Sodom, his value system completely turned around. And this is what Chacham, the Chazal, are teaching us. You could be raised in the house of Avram. You could have that, but once you go to Sodom, all bets are off. That training, you're going to be affected by your surrounding. No person is immune from his environment. They are affected by their friends. They're affected by the peers. They're affected by the neighbors. They're affected by the coworkers. They are especially affected by the colleges that they attend. A person who says, I'm strong, it won't affect me, it's wrong. You're going to be affected. And this is what the Malach, the angel, was telling Hagar. Go back to Avram. No matter how miserable it is, you cannot win if the environment is bad. If it's bad, the slope is very, very slippery. And explains Rabbi friend how many times in life we experience these tests, these temptations, and we say to ourselves, I can handle it. I'm strong enough. There's no such thing. We are very, very, very much, and this is, we're so dependent on our environment. No matter how strong you are dependent. And that's why not only you have to be careful which colleges you go to, if you go to colleges, but you have to also be careful where you're living, what city you're living, what's your environment, who are your neighbors, what's the shul that you're davening, which school you're sending your kids to. We see this with Noach and the flood, that it affected the environment so much that even the animals were affected. Even the earth was affected. That's why the whole world had to be put in a mikvah, in a mabel. The whole world was covered. The whole world was affected by it because we're very affected by our surrounding. And this is the fourth lesson, that no one is immune from the outside influences. Whatever you look at, whatever you see, whatever you listen to, whatever you watch, you are going to be affected. And this is what colleges are teaching. This is what's going on in the universities. We always knew that it was liberal, but we didn't realize how bad it was until now. And this is why I'm bringing it specifically in this year. We have to realize on what the world around us is. If we don't protect ourselves, we are going to. It's a very, very slippery slope. And the lesson number 4 is be careful of your surroundings. Be careful who your friends are. Be careful who your kids' friends are. Be careful who you hang out with. Be careful who your kids hang out with. Be careful where you send your kids. Be careful which shul you go to. Be careful which school you go to. We don't realize how this affects us so much. And this is one of the lessons that we learned from this week's parsha, that even if you can get better than being taught by none other than Avram Avinu. You can't get better than that. Avram Avinu literally lived in the world by himself. He was Eved HaIvri. He was the other one. He was the one on the other side of the river. He was the one that not only that if he knows how to train you to live by yourself against all odds, it will be only Avram. But yet, even so, says the angel. The angel says, you are not immune, Hagar. Go back. It's whatever the difficulties are, go back, because it's a very, very slippery slope. So now we have to look at. We see that people are splitting. The world is splitting. To which side? There's a side of good and there's a side of evil. The Gemara says that in Avodah Zarah, page 3a, that the non-Jewish nations, they will complain to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They say, listen, you didn't give us Torah mitzvahs. The Jewish people, they received the Torah. You didn't give it to us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's response. So you could have gone and checked. You could have gone and converted. You could have gone and be a Noachite. You could have done so many. Why didn't you check? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to respond that only one who prepares before Shabbos will have what to eat on Shabbos. Meaning that a Jewish person that keeps Shabbos, if they want to eat cooked foods on Shabbos, they have to prepare before Shabbos. So too, if you want to go and have something in the next world, you have to prepare for something in this world. Nevertheless, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even though you should have looked, and even though you should have, done your research, and you should have, done the right thing, nevertheless, I will give you a mitzvah. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives them the mitzvah of sukkah. And the non-Jews will go and they will build a sukkah, and then what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is that he will take the sun, the covering of the sun off, and the sun is going to beat very, very hard down on the sukkah, and it's going to get very hot. And the Gentiles of the world are going to get out of the sukkah, and they're going to kick the sukkah, and then they're going to go out. And the question that all the commentaries ask, they're like, wait a minute. If there's a halacha that hamitztayir patam in a sukkah, if somebody is going through a difficult time in the sukkah, if it's raining, if it's too hot to a certain level, you're patur. You don't have to stay in the sukkah. You could go into your house. So meaning a Jew and a non-Jew, doesn't matter, if you're in the sukkah and it's too difficult and you're not able to go and withstand it for whatever reason, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, whatever the reason is, when it's a really difficult, you don't have to stay in the sukkah. So a Jew and a non-Jew, they both leave the sukkah. So what's the difference? The difference is that a Jew leaves the sukkah sukkah thinking, oh, I wish I could stay in the sukkah. I would love to stay in the sukkah. I want to stay in the sukkah. What can I do? It's raining, it's pouring. I can't. A non-Jew goes and he kicks the sukkah. Why did they kick the sukkah? When they kicked the sukkah, that shows their true intention all along. That I never wanted to do this. I had no intention of all of this. And the Jews' intentions, I always wanted to do this. Because when you're pushed into a corner, all of a sudden you see what the true intention was. What the true intention was all along. And let's take this a step further. In the Gemara on Shabbos, page 33b. Rabbi Yehuda says, he's making a on a discussion of what the Romans had done, and he says, "Look how fine the works of these people. They have made streets, they have built bridges, they have made bathhouses." Rabbi Yossi heard this and he was silent. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai answered, "Wait a minute." He says, "All this?" He says, "Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah, it's very nice, but they did it all for themselves. They built the marketplaces for themselves. They built the baths for themselves. They built the bridges so they could have tolls. They did it all for themselves." Now, this information, this conversation was leaked to the government, and the government heard about this. So he said, Yehuda, who went and praised the government, he is going to be raised. Rabbi Yehuda was going to be raised. Rabbi Yossi, who was going and he was silent, he didn't say anything negative. He didn't say anything positive. He's going to be exiled. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who went and he spoke against the government, he is going to be executed. And the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, page 2b, tells us that in the future, the Roman Empire is going to be called on to explain itself before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to say, with what did you occupy yourself? And they said, oh, we made marketplaces, we made bathhouses, we did so much. And we did it only for the Jewish people. This is what we did it for. So they could occupy themselves with the study of Torah for the focus of praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to reply to them, "You're foolish people. All that you've done, you've only done for your own desires." And they're going to try to show with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no, we really did it for the Jewish people. And you know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to grant them their request? Why do they want to show that they do it for the Jewish people? It says, if we did it for the Jewish people, you're talking about the next world, where everything's very obvious. And you see that the Jewish people, they're the true nations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and their whole focus was focusing on getting close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to being a light to the other nations, to going on praying and doing good deeds, and learning Torah nonstop day and night. It says, oh, we also get part of this amazing reward because we did everything only for them. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you want to know why I could prove to you that you didn't? It's because you didn't stop harassing them. And the proof is the Gemara that we just said. He said if anybody went and they said that the reason why Reb Shimon Bar Yochai said they did it just for them, and they responded, oh, he's going to be executed, because they knew that what they did it really for themselves. If they would have said, no, we really did it for you, that would have held a different story. But that's why they wanted the Dafka to execute him. So really we see over here that everything they did is they did only for themselves, and nothing to do with the Jews, and nothing to do with helping the base. I mean, there's nothing to do with anything about Yiddishkeit, nothing to do with God, only to do with their own temptations, their own desires. We all know that we're living in an era very close to Mashiach. Mashiach is by the doorsteps. By the footsteps are getting very, very loud for where Mashiach is coming. We are, according to everybody, we're living in the end of days. And we see what Hashem is doing is so fascinating. He's showing everyone their true colors. Which way do you stand? People are going to come and they're going to say, oh, we did it for the Jewish people. We see the Jewish people. We see that this is the chosen nation. We see that you are the one God. We see, and we really should get a part of all the reward because we did it for you. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing now is fascinating. This is my own little pshat. You could agree with it or not, but you could see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is making everyone choose a side. You cannot deny it. People are choosing sides. And it's not a side that they can just choosing themselves. Social media came out and now everybody's thing is very well documented. People are not embarrassed to choose evil. People are not embarrassed to choose the side of terror. And they can't say, oh yeah, we helped the Jewish people. And I have to say, you could see a lot of righteous people among the nations. That they go and they stand up for evil. And they stand up for terrorism. And they stand up for what's good. And they stand up for it. And those people, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of them. They will get rewarded. But the people that are going against the Jewish people, they can't say, oh yeah, we did everything for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We did everything for your chosen nation. We did everything. We should get part of the reward of the Torah. I listened to this fascinating idea that it's very interesting that if you think about it, if Trump would have been in office now, again, okay, people are going to say it would have never happened, but let's say it would have happened. And Trump would have came out to support Israel. People said, of course, he's very pro-Israel, and we're very thankful for that. But of course, he supports Israel. Makes sense. But now you have Biden, a lefty liberal, doesn't know how to tie his own, forget about what's going on with Biden. And he came out with such strong support. Again, it's a little bit wavering, but still, fairly strong support, for Israel. You know what the difference is? You have all these lefty people throughout the world. If Trump would have came out to support Israel, everybody, those lefty people, the second that he says something, they just got to go the opposite way. They don't think twice about it. It's got to be wrong. They can't connect it. But now you have a very lefty president. You have somebody who was not pro-Israel for most of his term. He didn't, he gave Iran tons and tons of money. Like he didn't show the support for Israel like Trump did. So now all of a sudden he is coming to support Israel. Then all of a sudden the nations of the world could be like, wait a minute, like maybe there is something over here. Like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing the nations of the world. He says, I'm making it very clear what's good and what's evil. Which side are you going to choose? If you start saying, well, Hamas is going to show you what they did. They videoed it. It showed you, and they're going to document it, and they're going to scream it, and they're going to tell you what they did. All the nations, all of a sudden, you see the world is splitting up. And one side is taking good and one side is, and you want to know what I really think? One of the reasons that again, this is my own shot, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing people, to them, where you're holding, who you are. So don't come, Mashiach is coming. And when Mashiach comes, these people can't come knocking on the door and be like, oh yeah, we're on Team Israel. Yeah, oh, we're on your side. No. Look at here, A, B, C, and D, this, we could tell exactly where you are. So the next time that you're reading and you get very frustrated, and you're seeing that people are showing their true colors, don't worry about it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take care of that. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to make that your life mission to go and teach everybody in the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to go take care of them. They're showing very clearly which side they are on. And this is the fifth lesson and the final lesson. And that is, when we look at the news and we look at how disruptive and how wrong so many people are, we can get upset. We can get angry. Again, we shouldn't get angry, so that's what we spoke about. But it can affect us. We have to realize, no, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing this. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is God. And God is showing, He's making the divide and making it very obvious. And there's a reason for that. Because when Mashiach comes, it's going to be very obvious which side you're on and which side who gets reward and who doesn't get reward. And in our own sense, we have to really take this into our own level. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is basically posting this question for every single person in the world, we will have the same question that we need to answer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is asking the nations of the world, when you had a chance, again, maybe you couldn't do anything, maybe you could, but which side did you stand for? Which side did you step up for? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked the nations of the world, when you had a chance, did you step up to the plate? For whatever that means. But you know what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks that of each and every single one of us. When we had the chance, did we step up to the plate? If we come up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and be like, yeah, we wanted to learn more. We wanted to dress more modestly. We wanted to daven better. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be like, so did you? When you had the opportunity, when you are pushed into the corner, what did you do? What did you do? And if we didn't do anything yet, then we have to stop for a second and start taking upon yourself something, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the divide is not only for the nations of the world; it's also for us. Where do you stand? What did you do when did you start davening better? Did you start dressing more modestly? Did you start learning more? All of the above, more? What did you do? Let's do a quick recap of the lessons that we learned, and then we'll open up to questions. So lesson number 1 we spoke about out of the 5 lessons was self-control. We have to learn how to control our emotions. At this day and age, the Jewish nation is very emotional. Use those emotions for good. Daven. When you have that need, that emotion, turn it to tefillah. Say one kapitel to him. Just daven for whatever. Lesson number 2. That was again that's bekaisai. Lesson number 2, bekasai, and the anger. We have to realize, anger is not a place for it's not an emotion that Jewish people should have. We have to realize that everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything that happened is from God. Yes, people will get what's coming to them, and we have to do our Ishtadlus, but more than that, we have to realize that it's all from God. Everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lesson number 3, that's the Kiso, that's the pocket, and that's how we deal with others. We had a tragedy that happened to our brothers and sisters. How did we deal with that? Did we step up to the plate? Is our Achdus going up or is it going down? Is our learning going up or going down? Where do we stand? That's lesson number 3. Lesson number 4 is be careful of your surroundings. Look at we learned from the lesson from Hagar and Sarah and how the Malach said that it's better for Hagar to go back to Avram because the surrounding is better. And how careful we have to be with our surroundings, especially when you're dealing with colleges. And we see straight out the danger. That's lesson number 4. And the final lesson is that we look at the world at large, we have to realize not to be upset, not to be angry. This is all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is dividing the world into 2 sides. There's going to be a side of good and a side of evil. And this is the war before Mashiach. There's going to be a side of good and a side of evil. But we also have to ask ourselves, just like the world needs to step up to the plate and show where they support, we, as a Jewish nation, we also have to step up to the plate. Our support is in the spiritual ways. What did we do and how did we step up to the plate? With that, we'll open up. Oh, wait, no, we have to do our Kapitel Tehillim. We forgot for Eretz Yisrael and for all the soldiers. Again, if you're listening to this on a recording, you should still say the Tehillim. For some people think they don't need to say the Tehillim if they are on the recording. We'll say Kapitel Kuf Lamed, chapter 130 in Tehillim. Shir Amalais Mimamakim Karsicha Adonai Adonai Shema Bekoili Tiena Aznecha Kashuv Voice the Kol Tachadunai Im Avoinois Tish Maria Adonai Mi Amoid Ki Imcha Aslicha Leman Tivarei Kivisi Adonai Kif Sonafshi Vilidvarai Hoicholti Nafshi La Adonai Mishayimrim La Baiker Shayimrim La Baiker Yachal Yisrael El Adonai Ki Im Adonai Achesed Veharbei Maifedus V'hu yiftes Yisrael mikol avoyneisav Achenu kol beis Yisrael Hanesunim batzara uvashivya Ha'imdim bein bayam ubein bayabasha Hamakam yirachem aleim V'yitzia mitzara l'rvacha Ume'afela le'ayra Umishibud le'geula Hashta ba'gala bezman kariv V'namar amen. Also forgot to mention that tonight we are, I don't think I mentioned it, tonight we're learning first of all for Refuah Shlema for all the people that were hurt during this brutal, attack on Klal Yisrael, and for the 1,400, Kedoshim that unfortunately died because they were a Jew, as well as le Refuah Shlema to Chava Bat Chaya Esther, and to Le'ilei Nishmas to Rabbi Avram ben Chaim Yehuda and Rabbi Cheskel ben Rabbi Avram. Okay, let's open up to any questions. And thank you all for joining. There's no other further questions. So until next week, or better yet, I should start finishing off that we should be, the class should not happen in Meretz Hashem. We should greet Mashiach before next class.